Aubameyang to Barcelona is close, but apparently no incomings are. Welcome to SheKnowsArsenal, you guys. Let's do this. Hey guys, welcome to SheKnowsArsenal. My name is Jessica. I'm your host. You can follow me on Twitter at Jessino Tweets and SheKnowsArsenal. Transfer deadline day is fast approaching. We have 36 hours left or something like that, something small, something like that. And so rumors are not really heating up per se, but we have a potential outgoing, which seems to be the theme of this particular transfer window for Arsenal. Outgoings. We kind of talked about how we feel like we're in liquidation. And so, Ornstein has basically reported that Aubameyang to Barcelona is quite close, and they have kind of moved that deal. The deal has advanced over the weekend, and so it's looking like that can get done. And the rumors of Dembele needing to go in order for Aubameyang to come in were wide of the mark. So there you go. But Aubameyang should be going to Barcelona, and we can talk about more, like, I guess, during the show a little bit more in depth about just the way things have unfolded with Aubameyang. It just feels a little bit like, oh, wow, like, like he really could be going. Well, it would be a loan, and a dry loan at that. But essentially, we'd be trying to get his wages off of our wage bill and hopefully priming him for a move in the summer. If he leaves now, I don't think he's coming back, and that's just the reality of it. There's also reports coming out about Nketiah still being on the radar for Newcastle, and Newcastle are hopeful that that deal will get done within the last couple of hours of the transfer window. So, like, who's going to play up top? If we get rid of Aubameyang and we get rid of Nketiah, who is playing striker? It can't just be a Lacazette, can it? Lacazette has played so well this season when he's come into the fold to help us kind of link play and stuff. But towards the end of, January, it became kind of clear that he's somebody that you can't really rely upon because he's Lacazette. He's always been kind of inconsistent. And so now it's just kind of like, okay, so what's going to happen if we are to get rid of Aubameyang and Nketiah? And let's just say, I think Aubameyang was going to go regardless if we brought a striker in or not. It seems like we were ready to part ways. Aubameyang was ready to part ways from us. We were ready to part ways from him. And there really wasn't any idea that he would be reintegrated. So we needed to kind of let him go. But now Nketiah is the interesting one, because surely if you're thinking about, moving Nketiah on, there has got to be a striker coming in, right? Like, has to be. So that's kind of what we're going to be talking about today. There's almost 100 of you guys here already. Make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel. And I did see the Isak stuff yesterday, and I thought about reporting on it, but it's all silliness, isn't it? And here's the thing. I can be a bit of a Grinch when it comes to the transfer window, because over the years, I've really gotten my hopes up so many times, like countless times gotten my hopes up, and my hopes have been dashed, like, very swiftly and very harshly, waiting an entire window and nobody comes in. We get Czech, Peter Cech or something like that, or we get Oneni for 10 million or something like that. So I can be a little bit of a Grinch, and I just tend to be a little bit more, I'll believe it when I see it. And I get that they had a good window this past summer, but most of the windows that I've come across have been negative. So I have to just keep it real that I just don't have that much faith when it comes to Arsenal. And I know that it's different. It's a different hierarchy running things. But for me, you're pretty much, you're bad until you're good. And you have to be good consistently for me to say that you're good. And that's just kind of where I am right now. But we have a couple of, hours left until the end of the transfer window. And Ornstein, has said that we're no closer to any incomings coming in. Like, they're not close. Charles Watts pretty much said the same thing. They said that, it's not impossible, but something big would need to happen. And so when something big needs to happen, I'm like, well, we're not going to do that. I just can't see it. And so if anything, I think there'll be one signing, just one. Once Fabrizio Romano kind of put it out there that Xhaka wouldn't leave in this window, that shut the door for me in terms of midfield signings coming in. Artur, that situation kind of just deteriorated. And so I do think the club is okay with going into the last part of the season with Xhaka and Thomas Partey and Lokonga and Elneny. That is not what I would do. That's not what I would do. I don't see any other top teams going with, two starting central midfielders, and then the drop off from that group to the next is so massive that you can't keep up the same level of competitiveness. I don't see any top team doing that, but Arsenal loves doing that. Good for them. It's their funeral. When it comes to the striker, it's I see a lot of this, I've seen it today now more than anything that, well, Isak, his release clause is this much, and Arsenal are reluctant to meet that because they have other targets in the summer and they just don't want to risk it and all this kind of stuff. And I'm just like, the reality is that if we don't get a striker, and really if we don't get a midfielder, I don't think we make top four without without both of those. And I think we're leaving it up to chance whether we make top six without an improvement at all. So this whole, okay, well, we have a long-term plan. That plan goes out the window if you don't meet your immediate targets. And I get that we're Arsenal, and I get that we have some pull, but if the last couple windows haven't been obvious, we have some pull, but not for the type of players that we're going to need in these next 1 to 2 windows to really take us into that next level. And so sometimes I just think, I get that you have plans, but I don't think they probably anticipated West Ham being this good. I don't think so. I don't think they anticipated that. And so they may have thought, okay, Spurs will be about there, Manchester United will be about there, the other 3 teams will be there. But I'm sorry, Arsenal, you can't finish in 7th. You really can't. And even West Ham is they put in a big bid for Calvin Phillips. They put in a big bid for Rafinha. And I'm just like, even they recognize that you need big signings. Like, us in West Ham and Spurs are the weakest of the teams that are fighting for that the top 6. We are the weakest. And the other 2 teams seem to have at least really attempted to go and try to bring in somebody. And Vlahovic was a suicide mission. We can say, okay, well, the club tried. They put the money out there on the table for Vlahovic, but we were never going to get him. The moment that they said that he wasn't interested in the project, it was finished. It just was. And so for us not to at least try to get Guimaraes, like not at least put, a bid on the table for a midfielder that would be permanent, just says to me that the club is just banking on this particular squad getting us over the hump. And if January has showed you anything, it shows you that at this team's worst, we can't beat Burnley. At its worst, we cannot beat Burnley, excuse me. So I don't know why they'd risk it. And you can tell me over and over and over again that we don't have any cups. We don't have, any distractions. We don't have this. We don't have that. We didn't have Europe for the first half of the season, and we still dropped points that we probably shouldn't have. So having only 17 games left and, no cups and so we're fine, that just, I feel like it's arrogant. And I don't know why Arsenal would feel so confident going into this back end of the season without making any improvement. So I am hoping that tomorrow they bring in a striker, because Aubameyang will be gone, and they'll be able to get whatever money they possibly can for Nketiah, but I'm not holding my breath, you guys. I have to be honest, because I feel like the club was always prepared to go with this group. They were never prepared to go into this January transfer window and maneuver and try to improve the squad. And again, it's their funeral, as far as I'm concerned, because there were opportunities to improve the squad. And even if you have a long-term plan, sometimes you have to adjust when things aren't going the way that you thought they would. And yeah, now they have to hope that West Ham really just kind of falls off, or somebody else kind of falls off, and we continue to have the same form that we did in December. And with a couple of injuries and COVID cases, that could be damn near impossible. So yeah, I mean, we basically have to be perfect to do what we need to do. And that is very risky. So we'll see. BroPro98 says, Jess, can you try to make sense of the decision not to sign any player? I can't make sense of it. The one thing I can say is that I've seen I feel like it's a protection tactic right now, just from some of the fan base, because they're feeling like we may not get anybody in. So we need to have something prepared and ready, because we're going to get bantered like we are. Everybody else has pretty much improved their squad except for us. We're going to be the only team that doesn't. So it's kind of a protection tactic at this point, where, we have longer term targets, and we've seen in the past that short term solutions have always, backfired on us. So the club are right not to make any rash decisions and just go with the long-term plan, and, short-term pain, long-term gain. And with the amount of wages that we've gotten off of our wage bill, we could bring in 3 big players, our big targets, and this and that. And I'm like, there's no guarantee that this summer we'll be able to get our targets. Come on. So I think that's the one argument that you could make, is that we're saving, we're keeping our powder dry for the summer. But I guarantee we'll be having a similar conversation in the summer, when we're frustrated because we can't sell players, and until we sell them, we can't bring anybody in. So let's see. That is the argument that people are putting out there. I think we need to sign at least one player in this window, to be honest. Ed says, I think the Abba situation screwed us over. Needed to focus on a striker when that wasn't the plan. Wanted to focus on a midfield, but shifted to the striker. Not enough money for both. Yeah, I don't think that they planned on Aubameyang being what he was we would have. I don't think they ever anticipated having to loan him out, straight loan, in the middle of the season. I really don't think that was on the cards. I think everybody kind of figured that he would be much better this season. We were over the drama of last season, and it just kind of continued on. And so I think it has shifted the priority to a striker, but that also shows you that the fact that we are trying to bring in a striker, potentially, that they are not like, they don't believe that Lacazette and Nketiah can get us over the hump, and they shouldn't, because they won't. So it is kind of a bad situation to be in, but we have to be able to maneuver. When you have a manager that has non-negotiables and kind of is heavy-handed with the way that he, runs the squad, I feel like you have to be prepared to make difficult decisions. And so if you're not going to be able to bring in if he's not willing to bring Aubameyang out from the cold, then you have to be prepared to put the money down for the striker, because some of this is the way that the situation was managed. And I personally don't have an issue with the way that the situation was managed, because I think that it's okay to, be done with players that don't fit, the culture of what you're trying to build up. I think it's fine. But at the same time, you have to be prepared to put the money down for a striker if you're unwilling to bring Aubameyang out from the cold, because Aubameyang was going to be our starting striker. He was going to be the guy that was going to bring us 10 to 15 goals this season, and he hasn't been able to do that. So, you can't be heavy-handed and not bring him back in, but then also be too stubborn to go ahead and move a summer priority into the winter, because Aubameyang was part of the reason why we were going to make top 6 the season. So it's interesting, but I cannot see us not bringing in somebody because I just think it would be suicide. But at the same time, I can see us just going, well, we tried, but we have targets in the summer, and I just wonder. I guess I understand that the January transfer window can be difficult, and some of the players that you want to bring in may not be really available in January. But I don't think that the pool of players that we're going to be looking at will be necessarily that much different, if I'm honest. So if it's Dominic Calvert-Lewin, Isak, and Jonathan David, and that's what it'll be in the summer, just go for one of them now. What do you guys think of the Aubameyang situation? You know, I don't. I'm actually, outside of Arsenal, like, because you guys, if you've ever been to this channel before, and there's 200 of you guys here, so if you've never been here before, make sure that you guys subscribe and like the video. But for me with Aubameyang, I've never been his biggest fan, and so for me, I've always waited for this moment to come. Like he just kind of expires at clubs after a certain amount of time, and it never really ends just nice. That's just not how it goes. But I think I want him to be where he's happy, because he's no good to us if he's not happy. Aubameyang is very much that type of dude that's like, when things are going well for him and he's the center of attention and things are positive, he's a positive person to have around. Otherwise, he's not really. So I'm happy for him to get the move that he wants, and hopefully this will get him the permanent move that he wants elsewhere, and we can move on from his his wages. And so I'm happy for him in that regard. And I know that he'll bang in goals. I know he'll be fine in Spain. I know that it's going to come back and all the Arteta outs are going to be, oh my gosh, look, Aubameyang's banging in goals over there. But why couldn't we just bring him back in? He doesn't seem happy at Arsenal, and we seem happy to let him go, and he seems happy to leave. And so I'm happy for him in that regard. And I'm happy for the club as well, because if we can get his wages off the books, that would be perfect. And this is just one step to getting him out of the club before his contract runs down. But it's just sad the way that it kind of went down, and he really went not as bad, because we know Ozil was very, very, very toxic. Like the way that it unfolded was so toxic, and it really just put a firm split in the fan base. And there were other things at play there that made it a very difficult conversation to have. But it is quite similar in the path that really important player, really good player, star player signs a new deal on huge money and just falls off the proverbial cliff. And so I hope we've learned our lesson in that regard, that let's run the club smart. We'll never be the type of club that's going to have a bunch of players on 50 grand a week. And we're always going to have players on high wages because we're Arsenal, and that's what the top clubs do. There's no top clubs that have a bunch of players or their star players are on 50 grand a week. That's just not how it goes. But that being said, giving people huge contracts to stay is very risky, especially players at the back end of their careers. I think we need to be just a lot smarter about that. I was part of the very, silent minority, or silent minority that did not want Aubameyang to resign, because I just couldn't believe we were going to do the exact same thing that we did with Ozil. But I understood the aspect of the club where at that moment in time, you probably couldn't have not re-signed him. I get where in the moment that the club was in at that point, the fan base would have lost their entire minds. And I know that they probably felt, how are we going to bring in a striker? Because we didn't have money back then either. So how are we going to bring in a striker of Aubameyang's quality right now with the money that we have? We just don't. So it actually might be cheaper just to put him on these wages and move on. But that was another one of those short-term fixes, that maybe the club is trying to avoid. And I think you can add Willie into that. There are just a couple of moves that we've made over the last couple of years that have made it difficult for us to progress. And so hopefully the club has learned from that. That being said, we need a striker. And yeah, I hope that they have something in mind. But with Aubameyang, I'm okay with him going. Like, I really am. Like, I want him to be happy. Like, that's the thing. Like, I want him to be happy because he's not going to be happy here. Top Bin says, just whilst I agree with disciplining him, surely the club must have had a backup plan after letting Arteta banish him from the first team. Thoughts? I mean, it happened quickly. It happened pretty quickly. So, 1 minute he was playing every game, and then the next minute he was, um, the Everton game happened, and then the stuff about him not coming back happened, and all of that. So it happened pretty quickly. But I think, if I had to imagine, and of course we have to watch this on the documentary, and it'll be a zhuzhed up version of this, but I would like to know what the conversations were kind of um, like in terms of what do we do now? Like, was there ever an opportunity to bring him back in? Because it doesn't seem like, I think when Arteta says I'm done, it's finished. Like, the board cannot tell him to reintegrate. Like, it's not happening. So they may have discussed it and just, the backup plan was to get to January and see what they could do. But it feels like because the player was so willing to go and the club is so willing to let him go that everybody just kind of agreed that this is the best thing for us to do. And now they're trying to hopefully bring in a striker, but the market is such that you're not going to get anybody for cheap. And I'm not convinced that we'll get anything for cheap in the summer either. I think you're going to spend a lot of money regardless, and we're willing to put the money up for Vlahovic. But then when you look at the next level down, is it worth it? And I get that, but I don't know. I'm sure that they've thought this through, but the way that Aubameyang went from starting games to out of the squad was so quick, and then the January transfer window was here, that it wasn't an ideal time for this to happen. It's never an ideal time for a player like Aubameyang to be omitted from your squad. Let's see. Just FYI, you guys, I'm not going to touch on the Greenwood situation. I just want to talk about Arsenal and the transfer window. Sorry, you guys, I can't. Kay says Arsenal are meant to be one of the richest clubs in the world, and the best they can do is Smith Rowe. Smith Rowe is Aston Villa level at best. I'm not sure that I agree on that. Not sure I agree on Smith Rowe being Aston Villa's level or best. Is that just because the last time that we saw him, he didn't play that well? I mean, not sure. I'm not sure if you're an Arsenal fan or not, Kay, but I don't think any Arsenal fans really believe that Smith Rowe is Aston Villa level. And we do spend money. We just don't spend it smartly. We spend a lot of money in the summer, and we try to spend a lot of money on Vlahovic, and we probably are planning on spending a lot of money in the summer. But what does being one of the richest clubs have to do with Smith Rowe, and why is Smith Rowe an object of this sort of vitriol? This is crazy. Smith Rowe is a very good young player. I don't get it. Come on now. Let's see. Yeah, ESR is special. Like, he's a good player. Like, I don't understand that. Here's the thing is, I'm not mad that our players are not where I would want them to be. So in the grand scheme of things, and this sometimes is what happens is we don't get the players that we want, and we see other teams signing players, and then we start looking at our players and start acting like they're no good. They are good. They are good players, but they need help and they need time to develop. And so I'm not about to sit here and start acting like Saka's no good and ESR is no good because I didn't get the players that I wanted. The players that I don't want in the squad are the obvious players that we always talk about, but it's not Smith Rowe. It's not Saka. It's not Martinelli. It's not any of really the new players that we brought in. We know who they are. They need to go. So there you go. Let's see. Mr. Murmur says Vlahovic is afraid of the EPL intensity. I don't know. I think his agent had already concocted that move, and it is what it is. Matt G says we need to have the environment where our young stars can develop and become world class. Yeah, and Lord Gunnar, he knows exactly what we're talking about. It's not the young players, but that's what we kind of do. Like, we get upset about things that are not going well, and then, all of a sudden we start looking at our players like they're no good. They are good players and we need to give them time. It's the players that we need to replace are very, very obvious. Let's see. Harvey, thank you so much for this update. Daily AFC, this is coming. He's a news aggregator, really. But this is coming from Ben Jacobs, I think of CBS Sports, says that Nketiah to Newcastle is very possible ahead of tomorrow's deadline day. Ramsdale up top it is. Ramsdale up top it is, you guys. Oh my gosh. But here's one thing I'm going to say is that there was no way that we could not take Newcastle's money for Nketiah in this transfer window. When the rumors came out, and I don't know if it's true or not, but it was like 9.5 million. I was like, you cannot turn that down for Nketiah 6 months before his deal ends. You cannot. So I would love for that to get done. And if that gets done, then we know for sure somebody needs to be coming in. Let's see. You're huge. Okay. Says, with the way Arteta has been talking in the press and Adu posting drinking champagne, I'm convinced I will sign at least 1 or 2 players tomorrow. I think it'll be 1. I have to be honest. I think when you look at the midfield, oh my gosh, you guys, there's like almost 400 of you guys in here. Oh my gosh, I feel so special. Thank you. Like the video. I know it's because I'm talking about transfers, but I think when you look at it and you look at the midfield, they know El Neni's coming back. They have Sambi and Thomas and Xhaka. Like, who are they actually going to bring in? Like, once the Artur thing fell apart, it kind of felt like our dreams of a midfielder kind of fell apart as well. So unless they have something way, way up their sleeve, I would imagine that it's the striker signing. And I can't imagine who it could be. It could be Isak. I know that everything is kind of, he was in London and his license plate and we were tracking him and all this kind of stuff. It could just be he was on holiday, you guys. And I know that Harry Symeou put out a report saying that from what he heard, and I don't know if this is true or not, but of course the board like Isak, but they are a little bit reluctant to pay the 90 million release clause or whatever it is, because he's a prospect. He's really young and green and raw. So paying that amount for him might be too much, and they want to negotiate with Real Sociedad. Now, Real Sociedad, they have agendas that they need to get to at the rest of the season, but could they turn down 60 million? Could they turn that down? And that's what we're going to try to test the waters for that. I don't see Dominic Calvert-Lewin coming in January because Lampard will convince him to stay. Even if he wanted to go, he'll convince him to stay. So I can't really see Dominic Calvert-Lewin coming in. And Jonathan David, I'm not sure about him either. So I don't know who it could be. But if Nketiah goes, then of course we have to be getting a striker. And there's absolutely no way you go the rest of the season with Alexander Lacazette. No way. Yo-Yo says Eduardo Reyes, Odi, Arshavin are the only January signings that made sense, in my opinion. Opportunity arises and the club pounced. Yeah, January is a difficult one. So you don't think Aubameyang made any sense? I mean, I think Aubameyang was an opportunity, but we had just bought Lacazette, and I found that to be strange. And so I get what you're saying, and it needs to be an opportunity, but also like we just literally can't go to the back end of the season with what we have. We just can't. And so sometimes it's not even about opportunity. It's about actually we just don't have what we need. And so we need to just push something forward. Let's see. Why are you guys talking about Zaha? You guys are still on Zaha? Let Zaha go. First of all, let me just say this. Zaha gets too many red cards for an attacking player as far as I'm concerned. And you don't want him playing at Arsenal, we get more red cards than anybody. I want no hothead. Like, so Zaha's finished, you guys. There's no way. Oh, I did miss the super chat. Let me go back. Thank you, guys. Aaron LFC, thank you so much for your super chat. Says, out of 10, what do you think your chances of signing a striker and a midfielder are before the end of the window? A lot of Gunners still think 2 are coming. I think 1 is coming, potentially a striker. I think the chances 1 out of 10 of us getting a midfielder is 0. And I think 1 out of 10 for a striker is probably, I would say, about a 5. I would say it's 50-50. If Nketiah goes, then for sure we'll get a striker. I just don't know who it is. But thank you so much for your super chat. I really appreciate it. Y'all are still in here talking about Zaha. I know we are thirsty, and I know we are parched, and I know we are desperate, but we are not that desperate. We should have got him originally. We should have got him when we got Pepe, and we know why we didn't get get Zaha instead. Yeah, I know we have Xhaka that gets red cards, but we don't need to add Zaha to that, do we? Come on. But at this point, El Neni and Pepe will feel like new signings. And so hopefully, they come in with some sort of form, because we're going to need everybody. I'm just not convinced that we're going to go through the rest of the season without a single another injury or whatever. You guys are so funny talking about Zaha. Like, literally, I can't. That is so funny. Dembele, Daniel says, what about Dembele? Barcelona are desperate to let him go. I think that he will end up, if he ends up going anywhere, it'll probably be Man United. I think the 2 unnamed clubs that were really interested in him in this window were United and Newcastle. And Chelsea were only going to be interested in him in the summer. And so I think he'll end up at United. Would I take him at Arsenal? I just feel like he doesn't fit what we're trying to do right now. And I get that he's very talented and he can add quality in that left half space. And he's a very quality player. Like, I'm not going to say he's not. But the re-injury cycle is something that I'm not really interested in seeing in the Premier League. And I'm not convinced that he would see Arsenal as a step up. And I wouldn't want anybody that's just coming because that he's just being kicked away from the club that he's at. So, no thanks. Let's see. You guys can go ahead and throw some questions out there as well. Like, we're just chit-chatting because I told you guys about the Aubameyang news. He's pretty much going to Barcelona, and Nketiah could very well end up being a Newcastle player by the end of tomorrow. So what's going on with us? Let's see. Matt G says, do we know how long Tommy is injured? So Tommy, they said a couple of weeks Tomiyasu would be out. So I don't know what that means. I don't know if a couple of weeks is 2. I don't know if a couple of weeks is 3, 4. But what didn't help was us rushing him back. And the reason why we ended up rushing him back was because we didn't have Ainsley Maitland-Niles. And so I think that is a lesson that needs to be learned by the club, is that you don't need to loan out Ainsley Maitland-Niles 3 weeks early when you could have easily done it after the Burnley game and been able to use him in midfield against Burnley and also as a right back, or, you could have used him in midfield against Liverpool. You could have used him as a right back, against Liverpool. Like, loaning out Ainsley Maitland-Niles for me was pretty much the only person that I've seen leave in this window that really it just didn't make any sense at the timing. In regards to like Chambers and said Kolasinac, those 2, they weren't going to play. Like, they weren't going to play. Pablo Marie, they don't play. But Ainsley Maitland-Niles was a very valuable Swiss Army knife that we just kind of gave away 2 weeks early for no reason. And it hurt us in January not having him, because that's exactly what we needed him for. So Tomiyasu ended up having to play against Liverpool and re-aggravated his injury. And so now he's out longer than he probably needed to be. And that is something that the club has to take on the chin, because we are not the same team without Tomiyasu, and we don't have anybody similar to him. And now we're heavily like, now they're showing us Cedric in training, like he's back, and I'm just like, oh great, So I don't know how long he'll be out, but at least we have Cedric. Z Gold says, Jess, are you convinced Morata can improve Arsenal? No. I swear Arsenal fans created that by that rumor on their own, because 1 minute we're talking about Aubameyang going to Juventus, and then people started saying, well, what about Morata on a 6-month loan? We are starving. That guy, if you guys don't remember, he hated London. He hated London the last time he was here. He's just somebody that does not belong in the EPL. And if you don't like that Lacazette doesn't score goals, you definitely won't like Morata. And so what we're looking for is somebody that can do what Lacazette is doing, but also add some goals and something a little bit different. And I just don't think Morata gives that to you, especially if he's not interested in going to or being in England. So I don't think he can improve us. I get that he's a good player and he's gotten good moves and all that kind of stuff, but we have to think about, can you actually see him in the Arsenal environment? I can't see it. And so he's just not somebody that I would bring in. I know he's like 29 years old. I know we need somebody a little bit older, but not him. Not him. Absolutely not. Let's see. No, I think Dembele is a good player. Like, that's the thing. Dembele is a baller, but he's also a sick no. And so I get how people are like, well, he's a good player, we should want him. But there are other like factors to whether or not that player would fit. And so when I'm looking at him, I'm like, would he be motivated to play for Arsenal? Maybe not. Is he somebody that I think is serious about his footballing career? Probably not. Do I think he'd come after his best friend was basically, and probably in his mind, done dirty by Arsenal? Probably not. And then do I think that he'll be available enough for us? Probably not. Like, if you can't last in La Liga, you definitely are not going to be able to make it in the Premier League. The level is so much higher, the intensity and all of that. So although I think he's a great player, we all know Dembele is very talented, but he's also unreliable. And so that's the last thing we need, is to bring in somebody on those high wages that may not make it. Let's see, Mr. Austin, I miss Tommy. Yes, I miss him as well. Do I want Isak to sign for Arsenal? It's an interesting question, because usually I go with, do I think it's going to happen? And then I make my decision on if I want them to come or not based on that. But I would take Isak at Arsenal. I would. I think that we'd have to be a little bit patient with him, because I do think the step up from La Liga to the Premier League would be a steep one for him. And I think he's raw, but very, very, very talented. And if he can develop the skills that he already has and improve them, he's going to be a very dangerous striker. I think the only thing about him is that he does have to like work on his presence in the box and also his hold-up play. I think it's good and he can link play and stuff, but he needs a little bit more of that back to goal presence and all of that. But his speed, I mean, I haven't seen anybody that fast and that tall in a very long time. And you know what I'm getting at here. He just reminds me of like a vintage Arsenal player, somebody that Arsene would definitely go out and get, because the speed, I mean, and what I've liked about the way that we played recently, which I think people need to take into account, because I know that we believe that Arteta wants to play Pep ball, but I don't believe that. I think his style of play is different than what I think. There's principles from what Pep does. I think there's principle from what Moyes does. But there's also, Arteta has his own way of play. And what I've liked is that even we haven't had a lot of like all the possession, but the possession that we've had, we've used it really well. And we've hit players in the channels. And like, I love the directness of Martinelli and Bukayo Saka. And when I look at somebody like Isak, I think having him being able to run in behind, similar to Aubameyang, the way that he would, but he's more skillful and he can also link play, I think solves a lot of the problems that we had in terms of like how do we mesh together Aubameyang and Lacazette, and I think he gives you a lot of that, but in a very raw form. The difference between him and like Vlahovic is like a traditional classic nine, and Isak tends to want to come off. He wants to come off the wing, and he can be in like a fluid front three, but he would really need to work on his presence in the box. You know, he's not somebody that's going to. He's not a Dominic Calvert-Lewin in the box. You know, and so that's the element of Isak's game that's not there that could develop. But the other things that he has meshes together very well to be somewhat of an Aubameyang Lacazette hybrid, but with that classic, like, oh, we know this kid is going to be good, like Arsenal players of old. You know, he has that about him. So his ceiling is quite high. I would love to see him at Arsenal. Now, when you look at, are we going to be paying for, are we going to be getting a 90 million pound striker once we pay that release clause if we were to pay it? No. But could he potentially end up being that? Absolutely. And so it's the price you have to pay when you bought two, you know, expensive strikers that you couldn't get rid of. And so now you're in a position where you'll probably have to overpay for somebody because you're, you know, now that expensive striker is ready to go. But I would take him at Arsenal. I do think he's a very good player. But he's raw, and we would have to just kind of let him cook. We'd have to let him cook. Let's see. Lionide says Anthony Saka with end product. I mean, Saka's had end product this season. What does he have? 6 goals and 4 assists or something? That's pretty good end product as far as I'm concerned. So, I mean, I think we can kind of put the Saka doesn't have end product thing away at this point, can't we? He needs to do it more consistently, but I feel like that was like a last year issue that we're bringing into this season because other players look better in a dead league. Anthony has 6 goals and he has 7 goals and 1 assist in the Eredivisie, and Bukayo Saka has 6 goals and 4 assists in the Premier League. So maybe Saka is Anthony with end product. Just saying. Let's see. Rod Barrera says from Canada, Jonathan David is God. Jonathan David is great. Like, I do love him. Like, and I do think we're going to end up needing 2 strikers. And so obviously because Lacazette will go, so we'll need somebody a little bit different. And I wouldn't mind us bringing in Isak now and Jonathan David in the summer or something like that. We're going to have to spend money to make sure that we have the attacking options that we need. And the best thing that we could have done was send Balogun out on loan, because he will get the experience that he needs, but without the pressure of having to score goals for Arsenal. And Martinelli can have whatever time it's going to take him to eventually become a number 9, if that's what the club sees him as. But we need 2 strikers. And so having somebody like Jonathan David, who's different than Isak, would be good. But you're going to need more than 1 striker. And I would love to see Jonathan David at Arsenal. I would. And I know he's not he's not a lone striker, but like, you don't have to be a lone striker to be good. You know, like Gabriel Jesus is not a lone striker, and he does just fine for Manchester City up top through the center. So, yeah. So there you go. Let's see. Wilder says, I'm late. Has it happened yet? Right now, Aubameyang is like basically in the departure lounge, ready to go to Barcelona. The deal is pretty much done. So we'll just have to see what happens. Now it also says Manchester United have made an official bid to Barcelona for Ousmane Dembele. That's pretty obvious. So he's leaving. That for sure opens up the door for Aubameyang. So Aubameyang should go, and we'll see what happens from there. Newcastle are working hard to sign Nketiah and Matt Target ahead of tomorrow's 11 p.m. deadline. So those are pretty much the most recent things that are going on. So not much, but everybody's just kind of holding their breath, waiting to see if we bring in somebody. And I hope that we do. I'm just checking to see if anything has happened. Mohamed El Neni has now played more minutes at AFCON than he has at Arsenal this season. That's funny. Mohamed El Neni is like a star at AFCON. It's crazy. It's crazy. So sorry, dogs barking. Mr. Austin says, I feel another Tomiyasu type signing will happen on Monday, a person no one knows of. Oh my gosh. Like, could you guys imagine if it wasn't Isak and it was somebody that we haven't ever heard of or something? That'd be crazy. Tendai says, Abba shouldn't go because I'm not seeing anyone in anyone is this January. So here's the thing, Tendai, is that I think it's just beyond like, okay, well, I don't see the. Hold on, you guys. My dog is just barking, and it's okay. She's still barking. So there's does the player actually want to still be here, and does the club want him to still be here? And I get well, let's just use Aubameyang if we can't find anybody, but the situation was really big. It was big enough where Arteta just omitted him from the squad completely. Like he's not even in Dubai with everybody else. So I get it's just so simple. But I really do believe that there was some sort of agreement between Aubameyang and the club that he's just not going to play for Arsenal anymore. And so you can't just, if he doesn't want to play for Arsenal and the club don't, and the manager won't play him, it's kind of like it's done, So there you go. Let's see. Yo-Yo says, I trust the signing more if it was an unknown. That was Arsenal's MO back in the day. But Yo-Yo, are people like, are signings really that unknown nowadays? I feel like back in the day they were more unknown because like we didn't have all the tools that we have now in order to know about players. We didn't like always go and watch them, and there weren't the compilations and all that kind of stuff. So now I think it's more difficult to find unearthed gems and players that nobody's heard of before. I think Tomiyasu was known. I did look at him when he was linked to Tottenham. So it wasn't that I've never seen him before or whatever, and he was like this unknown. And I'm just like, who could it possibly be if it's unknown? Would it be like Darwin Nunez? Like who? Like, because we know of every single player. So even if it's unknown, it won't be unknown. I feel like it could just be somebody that we haven't been linked to. But at the same time, I'm still trying to rack my brain to figure out who that could be. Let's see. Yeah, I've seen this like a million times, you guys. They can't possibly be offloading all these players with no reason, can they? Certainly, they must be doing something to free up salary for Isak. I mean, I hope so, you guys. I hope so. Let's see. Let's see. Stephanie Salnave says, Stefan Salnave says, is Pepe back from AFCON? He has had a massive tournament. What did you guys think of? First of all, there's 500 of you guys in here. That's the biggest, that's the most live viewers I've ever had before. Whoa, make sure you guys like the video and subscribe to the channel, please. For the people that watch Pepe in AFCON, was he really that good? And do you think he could help us at the back end of the season? Was he somebody that hasn't really played that much for Arsenal this season, but tends to finish seasons off well? So what do you guys think? Is Pepe somebody that could come back and do a job for us? Matt G, Tommy wasn't that well known. Sky Sports didn't even know what position he played. They were just being condescending. Like that was what that was. It was he's not a big signing. Spurs went and got this Emerson guy. He came from Barcelona. So obviously Arsenal made the big mistake. So let's just, because the narrative around the window was we signed a bunch of backups for in silly money, so they knew who Tomiyasu was. God. The narrative around that window was just so pathetic. Let's see. Um, um, let's see. Alistair Ben says, I think Arsenal are luring into thinking we're not going to get anyone, and then you wait and they're going to pull out an absolute gem out of the bag tomorrow. I hope so. Z Gold says, love Jess always. Love you guys too. Phil first says, love Pepe, just lacks confidence. Let's see, Pepe in. Harvey says, as a bench player that's coming in, yes. P. White says he got a couple of goals up front. Yeah, so Aaron LFC says Pepe was looking good. I can't lie. So yeah, there's Pepe should play up front. I think he's going to be somebody important for us at the back end of the season because Saka is going to need a rest. Let's keep it real. Let's keep it real. What do I think about Adama transferred to Barcelona? I think the chokehold that Barcelona has on players that have left there is insane. Like, like he didn't play for them really. He was like in their academy, and then now he's back and he took a pay cut to go there. We know that he was heavily linked with Spurs. Spurs was going to offer him over like almost like $100,000 a week or something like that, and he turned that down to go play for Barcelona. That club has those players in a chokehold, and they will go there. They will go back no matter what, even if the club is barely standing, they will go back. I mean, Barcelona won't even have Champions League next season. And, or will they? No, they may still have Champions League, but they're struggling, aren't they? At the back end of this season, they'll be playing in Europa though. So, I think it's going to be interesting. I'm not sure what Xavi's really thinking, because if you think about Xavi, you're thinking, okay, they're going to be playing tiki-taka, they're going to be playing the beautiful game, but we don't really know much about Xavi. We don't really know what his footballing philosophy truly is. And they just bought two power and pace players in Aubameyang and Adama Traore. And so I think they'll both thrive in that league because they're going to be able to run over the players in La Liga, like especially Adama Traore. I think the way that the Premier League players struggle to deal with his pace and power, I think the La Liga players will struggle 3 times as much. But it's a strange transfer, I think, just because I think most people were assuming that Adama Traore or Xavi would go to tiki-taka style, but Adama will be a good weapon for in La Liga. And so we'll see how he does there, but he got his move back to Spain. Maybe this will help him solidify a spot in the Spanish national team. I'm not sure, but I'm not going to miss his greased up arms. I'll tell you that. I'm not going to miss it. Francis, thank you so much for becoming a member. I really appreciate it. I love that. Thank you so much. Exclusive content will be coming out next week. We'll be doing a mid-season review and stuff like that. So make sure you tune in. But thank you so much for becoming a member of SheKnowsArsenal. There's 530 of you guys watching. Make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel. Let's see. Z Gold says, Jess, thoughts on Arsenal fans saying Tomiyasu is I know. Here's the thing. Look, I don't want to make assumptions, but it felt like to me like it was just a really good time to get something out there that that I thought sounded cute, and it went viral, and I'm happy. But Tomiyasu has been arguably one of the best signings of the season, not just for Arsenal, but for the entire league. And so everybody, even, pundits that don't even like Arsenal, have said how good Tomiyasu has been. And Cedric and Chambers were both unavailable for that game against Liverpool. And Arteta said that he volunteered to play even though he knew he wasn't 100%. So instead of just leaving us out to dry, he basically risked himself to go out there and play for us. And he didn't play well, but we could tell right away that he was not fit. And so to turn around and say that he's just a Japanese Aaron Wan-Bissaka, when that was the first game that he's really played terribly in. And the reason for that was because he was, injured. I think was just a cheap shot that you would expect somebody outside of the fan base to make, and not somebody that says that they're the true opinion of the Arsenal fan base. So I think that was just so whack. And I think at first he said a Japanese Bellerin and a Japanese Wan-Bissaka and just egged it on. And I get going viral is really important and clicks and all of that. But as an Arsenal fan, I just feel like we all know that Tomiyasu is not amazing going forward. So I get it. But to really just stick the knife in after a really difficult performance and a very difficult loss when he risked himself to play, even though he was not fit, I think is just the opposite of what an Arsenal fan should be doing to that player. And so there you go. I didn't like that comment at all, I have to be honest. Let's see. For some of you guys, that some Barcelona fans are coming in asking about Aubameyang. You're getting a great player and he's going to bang in goals for you. There's no worry about that. Aubameyang will be just fine in Spain. He's going to do great for them. I have no questions about it. Aubameyang is a great player. He's still fit and he can play. And so as long as you play to his strengths, you'll win games with him because he can score goals when he is on it. And he's always talked about wanting to go to Spain. So now he has this move, and I think he'll do great. Matt G says Tommy has been amazing for us. Exactly. And so that's why when I heard that, I was just like, stick the knife in? Really? Okay. Yo-Yo says Tomiyasu is more of a seasoned Wes Brown under Fergie or early Ivanovic at Chelsea. Yeah, I mean, he's been great for us. Like, I just don't get it. Yeah, you guys that are just kind of arriving, I won't be addressing the Greenwood thing. I can't. There's enough channels that are talking about it. I just can't do it. I really can't. Let's see. High Star says, "Are you Arteta out, or do you still believe in the process?" It's a difficult question because I don't like to do the Arteta in and Arteta out, and I have done it in the past. But my thing is, I think that there can always be a process, and there should be a process and a project always going on at a club. That's how you're supposed that's how good clubs are ran. So I believe that there's something there, and we've seen us reset the team very well, and we have very talented young players that are growing together and getting better, day by day. But I still feel like we have to meet our targets. And if we don't meet our targets, somebody has to pay for that. And so for me, Arteta has to get us into Europe, and he needs to be in the top 6 for me to still feel like we're moving in the right direction, because a lot of managers could get top 6 with this team. It's good enough. There's enough talent in it. And if you manage it correctly, you'll get the most out of it. And so for me, it's more about, I'm not opposed to the youth project and getting rid of the older players that aren't serving us and getting the wage bill down and building from the beginning and starting over. I'm down for that. But do I think Arteta has to be managing that for it to be successful? No. So we can continue on with this, bring in good young players and grow and all of that. But if Arteta can't manage this team into Europe this season after being outside of it last season and finishing 8th the season before, I think we need to look in a different direction. I don't think that the coaching market is great, but I do think that we are kidding ourselves if we're saying that nobody could get anything better out of this group. That's where I kind of stand with it. We need to be in Europe and in Europa, not the Conference League. We need to see, there he is. We need to see true improvement, like that stands out from the actual table and not just from underlying metrics. Let's see. True Gunners TV says, I can explain my reasoning behind the Tomiyasu thing, by the way. It wasn't just based on one game, and I've never intended it to go viral. But anyways, Edu needs to be sacked no matter what happens tomorrow. That's Brandon, you guys. He's the one who said Tomiyasu is a Japanese Aaron Wan-Bissaka. You guys know I just don't agree with that at all. But if you can explain it and you weren't trying to go viral, fair enough. Thank you so much for your super chat. I really appreciate it. No love lost, of course. No beef or nothing like that. I didn't like it because I love Tomiyasu. You know how that goes. Tushima says, Jess, do you think we'll sign a striker, midfielder, or none? I don't think a midfielder is coming in, but a striker potentially, because if Eddie Nketiah goes, they will have to sign somebody, and so I hope so. I hope so. Yeah, you guys, I'm kind of a fence sitter. There you go. You guys, people are like, you're sitting on the fence. It's like, yeah, that's kind of what I do because I like to look at things from every single angle, and so I've been Arteta out before and did and then I was like, oh, I went too early because we are doing well, but if we don't make top 6, he's got to go. Period. So that's his Arteta out as I'm gonna get. Ify says Arsenal doing the IX model. We just need experienced players to make it through. Can't just have only under 23s. It's also the Dortmund model as well. And I know people don't like it, but it could be successful. But I think the issue with it is that those models never really work in terms of achieving actual greatness because it's sustainable, but you never really have the players in order to take you over the line. So you look at somebody like Dortmund, they always have like good older players that stay around for a while. And then you have a lot of good young players and they sell for big money. And then you have Ajax that do something similar, but they're always kind of at the top of their league. So they always win the Eredivisie, but the Eredivisie is like really crap. And so when you look at that, you haven't really seen those teams at the top of Europe for a while, and you wouldn't really maybe put them in like the top 5 clubs in the world or anything like that, because although they're really good, the model is sustainable, but they can never really sustain the challenge at the highest level because they're always selling their best players and starting the process over again. And so I don't have an issue with those models, but when you adopt those models, you have to know that, especially in the Premier League, with the money that's going into the Premier League, it'll be very difficult to compete at a high level doing that. In the Premier League as Arsenal as well. Like Leicester can get away with that because right now they're gonna have to start their process over again. We're Arsenal and we're meant to win things, so I'm not sure that it will really work for us. But the sustainability aspect of it for me makes sense. I would like for us to have some sort of sustainable model where at least we're selling players for profit. Not our best players always, but some players for profit. Right now, the players that are below the line, the Nketiahs, the Reece Nelsons, the Willocks, the AC Maitland-Niles, we're not getting enough money for those players, and those are the players we need to make money off of. True Gunners TV says, is top 6 enough though? Considering we got ourselves into a position to get top 4 and all we needed was a couple of decent signings this window. To not get top 4 for me is a disgrace. It depends on how you really thought about top 4. I thought, we were there, but I knew once United got their life together that they would be right back in that spot because I think United are better than us right now. I think they have enough individual quality to not to play. They don't even have to play well and win games. And for Arsenal, we're in a position that if we don't play amazing, we can't win. And so that just shows the difference in the where the clubs are at. So unless United were shit the entire season, I just imagine that we were in the best form that we could possibly be at in December. And when the other clubs got into good form again, we would kind of be back in the mix. And so touching 4th doesn't necessarily make me think that we are a top 4 team. I think there is still like a 1 in 3 chance that we could get it. But I just think United have too strong of a team and they'll probably nick it. But I'm more concerned about them making sure that we get European football, because for me, that was always where we were at, was to get into the top 6 and then buy players that could get us into the top 4, like our game changers, the players that United have that allow them to not play well, but they still get bailed out. We don't have those players. That should be Granit Xhaka and Lacazette and Thomas Partey, and none of them are bailing us out right now. Those are the signings that we need. So it depends on how you think about it, but we do have a chance to get into top 4, and I don't blame anybody for being upset if we don't get players in to try to get it. And you look at somebody like West Ham, they put in big bids for players, and you can say it's just for show, but you don't put in bids for show. You really don't. And they tried to get Calvin Phillips and Rafinha, so that doesn't seem like a team that is afraid to compete, so there you go. Yo-Yo says finishing 5th or 6th is the exact same thing. Europa League failure. Last time Arsenal finished 5th by a point, they lost to the 4th team in Baku. Arteta's ceiling is lower than the squad's. I mean, hey, I hear what you're saying. Like, I do. I don't know. I feel like we're probably the 6th best team. And when we play like shit, we're probably about like the 7th best team. I don't know. I get why people are frustrated and why they don't think Arteta can do it. And I have my doubts as well. Like, I do think that there are some glaring issues here with Arteta where there's positives, there's also negatives. And so we'll see where he gets. Like, we'll see where he finishes. Let's see. So yeah, you guys, somebody's saying West Ham will sign Schick. That would definitely put us in the grave then, for sure. No Murata, you guys. No Murata for me. Let's see. Stefan says, Jacinho, please don't forget we almost dragged City from their camels tall backside in January. Yeah, I mean, that's the highlight of January, right? Was that one good half against Man City, but that was so long ago. And it's all for naught if we come out of this window and don't sign anybody and then don't be Wolves, So I get what you're saying. Like, we have made improvements, but it needs to show up at the end of the season on the table, and it has to be obvious. I think we have 1 point more now than we did at this point last season. So the improvement, it's there, but it's not so substantial that it's showing up in our results, and that's the issue. It's all underlying metrics and theories and shit right now. Maduya, thank you so much for becoming a member. I really appreciate it. Yay! We got 2 members today. Really exciting stuff. Make sure that you guys come back when we're actually doing our player ratings and other shows. We do like mid-season reviews, season reviews, all that kind of stuff. Match previews, all of that. So yeah, make sure you guys come back from that. I noticed that you guys are more interested in transfers, and usually I get more views on the transfer stuff, but we do talk about interesting things when it's just the season. So make sure you guys come back and subscribe. Yeah, you guys, no Greenwood talk for me. Sorry. Let's see. But yeah, I do have to get out of here, you guys. I wish I could stay a little bit longer, but I do have to go. Obviously, we'll be back tomorrow. The early part of the day, I'll be on here for a couple of hours doing the deadline day stream. I'm sure a lot of people will, so please make sure that you pop in. And then at the back end of deadline day, I'll be on Arsenal Vision doing their deadline stream. So make sure that you guys tune in there. Subscribe to the channel, like the video, get in the comment section. I really enjoyed our discourse today. It's having fun talking about the transfer window. Try not to take it too serious. We'll know tomorrow, you guys. We'll know if we are, if it was all worth it or if it was all for nothing. So there you go. I will try, so what I'm attempting to try to do is like 8 o'clock my time. So 8 o'clock. So that's 4. What time is that? 4 to 8 p.m. here, your time, UK time. Okay. So I'll put it up on Twitter. Make sure you guys are following me at Jacinho Tweets and at SheKnowsArsenal. Still trying to get things together for tomorrow. But yeah, I will talk to you guys tomorrow and enjoy the rest of your day.